Hey everybody, Fetty here. Real pleased with how this section of handrails turned out, this newel post and the handrail and everything. I just love the way it looks. So I wanted to do kind of a follow-up video showing how I built this handrail, because I've got another section over here that I need to complete. If you've watched any of my other stuff, you know that I have this deep-seated fear of commitment, so I very rarely, whether it be in my house or my life, build anything that's permanent. I like to build stuff that you can take apart but don't look like you can take it apart. So this is the same deal with this. This entire section will pop out. A while back I did a series of videos on removable stair railing. You may want to go back and check that out, because this is kind of the same concept of how this is built. On the bottom here, there's a cleat, and there's this piece here on the very bottom rests over top of that cleat. It's got a slot cut in it, so it rests on that cleat. And on the top, on the ends, there are pieces of track that run along a lag bolt. So this thing's secure. You're not going to accidentally knock it out. So it's a secure piece of handrail, but you can take it out pretty easy. So in this video, I'm probably not going to go into a whole lot of detail on the cuts, because that information is in the removable handrail series of videos. But I'll give you enough to kind of get you started and get your brain juices flowing and maybe get some ideas swirling around. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, let's talk about the method behind my madness on this removable handrail. Let's start at the very bottom. At the very bottom, we're going to have a cleat. And the way that I made this cleat is I took two oak 1x2s and I simply glued them together. I need a really long one. I think the span's about 64 inches, give or take. So I needed to make up a really long one. Simply took the 1x2s, glued them together, let them sit overnight and set up, and that made my cleat. Now the way that works is this is going to span from end to end between the newel posts, and I'll secure it on each end with trim screws. So it's going to be really strong. So we have the cleat on the bottom. The next piece, and I don't know really the names for these things, because I think I kind of invented this removable handrail system and I hadn't named the stuff, but I'm going to call this bottom rail. And what this is a 1x, let's see, I believe this is, yeah, it's a 1x3. And I put a nice little bead in it with the router table. And I used the dado blade and made a slot inside it, a pocket. It's 3/8 of an inch deep, and I just centered it up. And what this is going to do is it's going to sit over top of the cleat, and it'll keep it from moving out. So once this is sitting over top of the cleat, it can't come out from the bottom. The next piece is just the baluster. And I'm going to use oak 1x2s, 2x2s for the balusters, and then in between these I'm going to put kind of the metal looking baluster, so it'll look pretty cool. So we have the baluster. Once I get it laid out, I'm going to come in and I'll just pin nail it just to kind of hold it into place. Now on the actual piece of handrail, I wanted to dress that up a little bit for two reasons. One, to make it look cool and custom, and two, to give me something that I could use to secure the top piece of the baluster to. So again, I took what is this? This is, I think it's 2 inches. I ripped down a piece of oak to 2 inches, ran it through the dado blade, cut a slot in it. I think that's about 3/8 also. And I put a cool little bead profile on the outside of it on the router table. And what happens is this handrail fits down in there, and it makes it look like, I don't know, the handrail already has a bead on it, so this put 3 more beads. It just makes it look beefy and cool. And what happens here is that goes on the top. So let's call this piece the top rail, and this will be the handrail. So that is the assembly, and what happens is I'll secure this baluster with a 2.5 inch woodworking screw. I'll just, once I've pinned it and got it in place, I'll come in here with this and run that screw into it and then do the same thing from the bottom, and it'll be really strong. Now the last, I guess, concept on this removable handrail is on the inside of this assembly here. I'm going to cut a pocket, and what's going to go in that pocket is a piece of this miter track channel, and it'll go inside there to recess in, and I'll secure it with a couple of screws. And on the ends of each newel post I'm going to have a lag bolt, and that lag bolt will let me slide the whole assembly over top of this piece of track, and that's going to keep it from moving. Is that laterally? I don't know. It's going to keep it from moving out of place. It'll be good and strong and secure. You can't move that way at the top because the bottom is cleated. You can't move out at the bottom, and it's just going to be really strong. It's going to work really good. The cool thing is, if you ever need to take it out, you just lift up on it, the whole assembly comes out. So that's kind of the concept behind this removable handrail system. Okay, so I've got this cleat all laid out. I've come up about 4 inches off the floor because I've got a piece of casing here that I have to clear. So I'd say 3.5, 4 inches. That looks good, and it's a good distance to raise it up. I've got it square from post to post, and now I'm just ready to secure it. I drilled with an 1/8 inch drill bit, pilot holes, 2 on each end of the cleat at an angle going into the post, and that's how this is going to be secured. I'm going to run a screw in it, and I'll show you how to do that. That'll secure it real good, and it'll be good and strong. The screws that I'm using are these little trim screws right here. That's a number 8 by 2.5 inch. And what I like about these screws is they have that little bit of head on them right there. So when I go to run that screw in, I can run it plumb up into the wood, and that way when I lay the bottom rail on top of this, it won't be humped up because of the screw. So let me go ahead and put this thing in. I'm kind of all hinky here, the angle I'm having to go. See how it runs plumb up into that cleat right there, so that I can lay that top rail on it. So now the cleat is in place. It's good and strong. It's not going to go anywhere, and we can go ahead and lay the top rail on it. We'll just lay it down over top of our cleat. And there it is. It's really good and snug. So now we can move on to the next part. Okay, so we got our top rail cut out, and it fits really good. I took a couple of blocks on each end and secured them on the end post so that I could just lay that top rail into place. And it fits really good, so I think this is going to work out really nice. What I have to do now is the hinky part that I hate, is laying out for the balusters. I know that there's going to be 11 balusters in this run. I'm going to use 6 of the wooden balusters and 5 of the metal balusters. I know the distance that I want to cut them out is 28 7/8. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go cut out all the wooden balusters, and I'm going to come back up here and start dealing with getting this laid out just right. Okay, I've got some painter's tape on the bed of my saw so I don't mar up the finish that I have here. And I've set up a stop right here so that I can just slide these in and they'll all cut to the same length. So that'll save me a little time in the long run. Let's go ahead and cut this. So what we need to do now is we've got our handrail, and I need to cut a pocket out in there for that piece of miter track to go in. And I've got a jig here made up. You may want to go back and look at the videos, the removable handrail series. I talk a little bit more about how to make that jig. It's nothing complicated. I'm going to take this trim router with just a straight cut bit, and I've got it set to a depth that it'll make a pocket in here that'll be just enough for me to put that piece of channel in and recess it just a smidge. So let me go ahead and cut that out. There we go, turned out good. Well, this is the part I hate the most because it involves math and patience, and I don't have good skills at either one of them. But getting this laid out, you know, you got to get it right. You got to, you know, adhere to whatever code it is for the max space between your balusters and all that. The best advice that I can give you is go online and search for Balusters Calculator. And those calculators will take into account the span and the width of your balusters and all that kind of stuff. And it'll come back and it'll give you a spacing between each balusters. Technique I like to use is I like to use these ends off of the pieces that we cut and come in with a piece of double-sided tape on the bottom of them, because I don't care if that calculator tells you, you know, what it tells you. You're going to have to play around with this a little bit. So if you kind of push these ends on there with a piece of double-sided tape, you can come in with another one and measure it out. And my spacing is 3 7/8. And I can come in here and stick that on there at 3 7/8 and keep going. And then when I get kind of to the end, I mean, I'm working my way in. Maybe you start on one end and go to the other. But when you get to the last one, you'll know kind of about how much off you are, and you can go back in and adjust it. Once you have it all laid out, I'll just come in with the actual balusters. I'll move one off, put it in place, measure it up, make sure it's good. Then I'm just going to tack it in place with a pin nail until I can get everything just kind of tacked into place and run the screws in it. I'm just going to pin this thing into place here. Okay, that's all I'm going to do as far as nailing it, because it don't really need a whole lot in it, and I'll be pulling them out anyway when I put the screws in it. Okay, we're skipping this one because that's where the metal baluster is going to go, and we're coming right here. We'll check, make sure I'm still where I need to be. That looks really good. Got my square on here just to kind of give me something to butt up against. I'm just going to pull that off. And put the full-size baluster in. Now all I have to deal with is just getting it lined up in this direction. And that looks pretty good. I'm just going to pin it right here. Just to give it something to hold on to. Okay. Okay, now we're ready to secure the baluster from the top. And I've laid it into place. I know that it's plumb the way it's supposed to be both ways. And just so I can secure it a little bit so I can work on it, I'm just going to pin it up here at the top. and that way I know it's not going to move. This whole assembly is pretty fragile right now, so we got to be pretty careful with it. Okay, now I'm going to drill a pilot hole with an 1/8 inch drill bit. Now I'm going to put a countersink on it so that the screw head won't interfere with the handrail. You don't have to go very far because there's not a lot of material to work with on this. Now I'm going to come in here with one of these 2.5 inch woodworking screws. One of these, if you can see that. And I'm just going to run it down into the baluster. And there it is. It's perfect. Okay, at this point I've brought the entire assembly back down into the shop, and I've flipped it over upside down so that we can drill the holes on the bottom and run the screws in the bottom part. So it's just like I did on the top. I'm just going to drill an 1/8 inch pilot hole. Then I'm going to take a countersink. Okay. Now we're going to take one of these woodworking screws, 2.5 inch, and just run it on in. Okay, that looks good.